And I'm really very delighted to introduce our next speaker because she ummed and ahed about whether she could come and join us quite a lot. And I bombarded her with email on a regular basis and said, you don't want to miss this. This is going to be good. It's going to be good. So this is another person who many of you might recognize the name, but not necessarily know the person. And I have had the real pleasure this week of meeting Jamie Nast for the first time. You know, it's another example of someone who we've known and been engaged with for a long time. And Jamie is she is someone who, in her words, she's been fighting this fight for a long time. So we've got Jamie here today to talk about mind mapping and associative thinking. And Jamie, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. And yeah, I did hem and haw a little bit, but we finally made the decision. So I'm going to jump right into an activity for you that I think will help all of you prove it to other people. So it's called an association activity. Some of you in this room have already done this. So you need to grab a sheet of paper and a pen, draw a circle in the middle of the page that's large enough to contain a single word, and then I want 10 lines or branches that are coming off of that circle in the middle. Also, on each one of those branches, we're going to write a single word. And we're going to do an association activity where I'm going to give you the word that we're all going to put in the middle of that circle. When you think of the word that we're going to put in the middle of the circle, I want you to think of the first 10 words that come to your mind are going to go on these lines around the circle. As you're doing this, I don't want you to look at your neighbor's paper, okay? So if you have to hide from them or whatever, when you're done with those 10 words, turn the paper over. Don't talk about your words. Don't look at other people's words, because we're going to have some fun with this, okay? And I'm going to have to remind you occasionally. Okay, everybody understand what we're doing here. This is not a timed test or anything. I'm going to try to, for the most part, wait till everybody's done with your 10 words, and then we'll move on with the next set of instructions. Okay, the word that I want you to put in the middle is the word run. So the first 10 words that come to mind when you think of the word run will go on the lines around the circle. Try not to overthink it, just whatever comes to mind. There's no right or wrong on this. And when you're done, remember to turn your paper over so your neighbors can't see it. A couple more people that are ripping off. Okay, while they're wrapping up, I'm going to move on to the next. What we're going to do in the next phase here. This is going to be probably the hardest thing to do all day. I want you to get into groups of 4. Okay, and there's 6. If you have 5, it can kind of work, but the 6 is just it just blows the activity away. So if you have to move just for a moment, but before you move, here's what I want you to do. When you think you're about to go into these groups of 4, and what I want you to think about is how many times I'll use you guys as an example. How many times will all 4 of you share the same identical word? So 4 of a kind. How many 4 of a kinds will you have out of 10 possibilities? That's the number that I want everybody to put in your head. As an individual, as you move into your group of 4, how many 4 of a kinds do you think you're going to end up with? So put that number in your head, and then I'm going to poll you. Yeah, how many 4 of a kinds among all 4 of you? How many occurrences of that will happen out of a possibility of 10? So I'll start. When you hear your number, raise your hand. So we'll start with 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay. Nobody voted twice, right? Okay, so now that gives you a feel. So we're somewhere between 6 and 0 with a big mass between 3 and 5, something like that. Okay, so that gives us a feel for that. So the next thing I'd like you to do is get into your groups of 4, 5 if you have to, and then I'll give you the next set of instructions. Do not show people your words.
You want to be here before? Don't look. That's what I see. You were testing us.
Okay, you're going to need, somebody in the group is going to need to kind of keep the tally and the statistics. And what you're going to have is, depending on how many people you have in your group, 4 or 5, whatever, you're going to have columns 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We know what our guesses were as far as how many 4-of-a-kinds. We're actually going to find out how many 4-of-a-kinds, 3-of-a-kinds, pairs, and unique words that actually came out of this. So the first person will begin to read their words to the rest of the group. And as you read all of your words, every time you have a match, an identical match, you know, raise your hand, put a tick mark on, let's say it was a pair, put a tick mark under the pair, it was 3-of-a-kind, put a tick mark there, etc., etc. It does need to be identical, and we'll talk about this at the end of the debrief. So when you get to the last person, oh, and also the other helpful thing is, as you have words that match with each other, cross them off, so that when it comes around to you, you can't remember, did we count that one right already or not? It just gets real confusing. So cross it off when you're done. I will give you a few minutes to tally, and then we'll find out what you did as a group. So go ahead and work on that.
Anybody want to be a tally keeper? Sure.
Okay, I think I know some of you may not quite be done, but we at least know how many 4-of-a-kinds we did or did not have, okay? So let's talk about this just because we don't have a ton of time. I'm going to ask someone from each group to represent your group. Raise your hand. And how many 4-of-a-kinds did you have by show of fingers? Nobody had a 4-of-a-kind. 0. Okay, interesting. How many 3-of-a-kinds did you have? By show of fingers. 1, 2, okay. Pairs?
1.
Okay, anywhere from 5 to 2. Okay, so you can see we were pretty off, weren't we? Yeah. So why did that happen? Okay, we have different points of view, different experiences. Yes. Okay. So, yes.
We always assume other people will be in the same context we are, so we guess higher than actually comes out.
Right, exactly. Did you hear that? We think people are going to be like us, basically. And so we set the expectations a bit higher. And it was an easy word. You know, you would think that wouldn't be too tough. But again, it shows how different we are. And one of the reasons that I really stress the idea of having an identical word is because you could say speed and fast and put each one of those in the center of that circle, and the 10 words that you would surround that with would probably be different. There might be a little bit of overlap, but you can see our brain is incredibly associative, and it's built on our experiences. So I think that's really important from a communication perspective, because if I say one word or I see an image, I'm going to think completely different than you. And this is how our mind maps are also going to work. So one of the things that we want to talk about is this whole idea of what's the right mind map. And there isn't. The right mind map is going to be the one that most accurately reflects your associations. So at the very core of how we build a mind map is this associative process. And I can guarantee you, if you take clients or your team members or any group of people through this activity, I guarantee, I don't think that I've ever had 2 4-of-a-kinds ever in 22 years. I suppose it might be possible, but I have had 1. But this is just a beautiful reflection of how our brain works. And so, because our mind maps are going to be incredibly different, the last thing I want to do, is just show you. I run a 2-day workshop, and in one of the examples, I have them read a 2-page Covey article, and then create a mind map from that. And I'm just going to, for the fun of it, walk you through how different these people created their maps on the identical same article. really good. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, that goose laid that egg, didn't he? Okay, that's just fun, and just again an encouragement for you to be yourself, be true to your own associations. And does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, good. Was there somebody in the room that is not a mind mapper? Who wants the book? You're very welcome. Okay, boy, I didn't even have to say what this is. Here it is. Thank you very much.
Jamie, thank you very, very much.